Hello, I'm Sanni Mustonen from Lapland University of Applied Sciences, and I'm here to present our paper, Balancing Playability and Historical Accuracy in Game Design, Developing the Struve Geodetic Arc mobile game. In many different kinds of games, there is a need to find balance between reality and fantasy. But with a game depicting historical events, finding this balance is one of the most challenging things. Balancing the historical accuracy, what really happened or how things were, and how the game is played or how much fun it is to the player. And in this process, there are several factors to consider. Firstly, what information is available? Second, just like in any game, goal of the game and who the game is made for, and also possible technical limitations set by, for example, the platform. This paper is a case study of finding this balance in a mobile game development process. And on the right side, you can see pictures of how Mr. Struve looked like in the game. So first, a little about Struve Geodetic Arc, if you are not familiar with it. It is or was a triangle measurement chain made to determine the precise shape of the Earth. So was it elongated like a lemon or slightly squished like an orange? And the project was initiated by the astronomer Friedrich Georg Wilhelm Struve. And the whole chain was measured across multiple decades in the 19th century. The entire chain reaches from the Black Sea to the Arctic Sea. And the chain, or certain points of the chain, were inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2005. And on the right side, you can see Mr. Struve himself, a map of the entire measurement chain, and for reference, the Earth, which is not a perfect sphere, as we know. So, Steps of Struve mobile game was developed between 2020 and 2022 at Lapland University of Applied Sciences during a project called Northern Parts of the World Heritage, Struve Geodetic Arc. And it depicts the measurements of the very northernmost parts of the SGA from Tornio, Finland to Hammerfest in Norway. And the intention of making this game was making this local world heritage better known, especially with younger audiences, so 12 years and up. And on the right side, you can see a few screenshots of the game. Let's go through them quickly. So first of all, this is the map view where the player progresses forward, can use their skills, see their party, all of that. Second, we can see encounter view, where the player must decide what to do in each of these randomized text-based events. And lastly, we can see a picture of the measurement game where the player has to climb a measurement tower and execute the measurement as best as they can. To give you an idea of how the game was designed, the paper also includes a table of the most important design decisions. I don't have the time to go through it here, unfortunately, but as an example, the developers made an intentional deviation from the known historical facts of the measurements by making the player's route linear. So in reality, the northernmost leg of the SGA was measured in separate segments, which were then connected at the end. And some parts were also measured more than once just to ensure accuracy. So a fictional linear route was seen as more straightforward and motivating for the player than following the actual more complicated and fragmented routes. For this paper, we wanted to get the point of view of the developers, and that we got through interviews. So almost all of the Steps of Struve game team members were interviewed in remotely conducted semi-structured interviews, and all of these team members had different development roles in the game and varying amount of work experience. And the main question in the interviews was, how did the game developers feel that the game's historical topic affected their work? In addition to the interview data, we also had access to all of the design documents and other background materials from different design and development phases, like tables of included or discarded content, or concept art, or all of that. And on the right side, you can see a few examples. At the top, there is a rough sketch of a village or a town view of the game, and at the bottom, there is a single black and white image of a storyboard for a cutscene. To analyze the data, interviews were first transcribed, and then two authors conducted a thematic analysis using affinity diagramming method. So all recurring themes from the interviews were extracted and grouped through multiple iterations. And each group's relationship with other groups was also determined. All codes and themes were generated based on data, and this process followed the 4 stages described by Andres Lucero in using affinity diagrams to evaluate interactive prototypes. So firstly, creating nodes, then clustering nodes, then walking the wall, and finally documentation. And here you can see the recurring themes extracted from the developer interviews. Most importantly, in the middle, these 2 categories we've labeled process and content were in constant interaction with each other. As an example of this interaction, there were some diary type texts available of the SGA measurements, but they focused much more on the technical side of the measurement work itself instead of day-to-day life. But still in those texts, the major impact that the weather had on the measurement work was evident. So the developers decided to include weather as a game mechanic. But as it was impossible to gain knowledge on the precise weather condition in each location, the weather was randomized in the end. To summarize the most important findings, initial decision of prioritizing gameplay and entertainment over historical accuracy steered all subsequent decisions, which is to be expected. However, timing and resourcing the background work impacted individual design choices. So what information was available at each development stage had an impact on the developer's work. How could they form the events or any other piece going into the game? The developers also noted that the history experts that were involved in the larger project team, their time and knowledge could have been used more efficiently during the game development. But then, how the historical topic affected an individual developer's work depended on their role in the team. For instance, if a developer worked with designing the events or characters, they had to deal with the historical information and content much more than a developer that was working on the measurement minigame only. In this paper, we have taken a look at the developer point of view, but it might not align with that of the players. So comparing these 2 could give us more insight. It would also be interesting to go beyond case studies in this to see if there are possible common challenges or methods between different teams, or if there are differences between handling local and world history. However, there might be a challenge in data acquisition, especially in the case of commercial games, since background information and all of that might not be given so freely. Thank you everyone. This was Balancing Playability and Historical Accuracy in Game Design.